All right, man, peace. You know, brothers, they always say that when you first meet someone, you're not actually meeting them, you're meeting their representative. You're meeting their ambassador, their diplomat, per se. That's why people, when you first meet them, they tend to be very diplomatic. They tend to be very generous. They tend to be, extremely giving in their conduct and in their method of interaction with you. Whether you're in a relationship with someone, when you first meet them, you're seeing the best version of themselves. Or sometimes when you start a job, you're putting on the best version of yourself because you're quote unquote on probation. Some of you cats out there may have been on a job when they brought in a new hire, and that person was extremely deferential, excessively respectful. Every morning they said, "Hello, how's everybody doing?" And they buy people breakfast and things of that sort. But once they pass that probation phase, they barely are able to treat the other people there with a modicum of respect because they feel like they're comfortable now. They can be who they actually are. And the vast majority of people are not as good as they want other people to think that they are when they have to make a first impression. I bring all that up because in the case of Mr. Rajon Rondo, a player who I think should end up in the NBA Hall of Fame, and Mr. Russell Westbrook, aka Russell Westbrick, certainly a first ballot Hall of Famer. They're putting on their best diplomatic front right now, not only for each other, but for the media as well as their team. And sometimes people overtly or superliminally, they really believe, or they force themselves to believe, that they're going to be able to force this square peg into this round hole. And I just don't see it. I don't see how Russell Westbrick is going to be able to fit in with the Lakers, as well as, some of the Laker fans or LeBron James fanboys or Russell Westbrick fanboys might hope. Russell has always been the lead dog of a very dysfunctional pack. That's what he's built to be. That's what he's always been born to be. He's not someone who's going to take a supplementary role behind anyone. He doesn't know how to do that. He does not have the skill set to do that. He doesn't have the mental approach to do that. He has a very low basketball IQ. Now, on the flip side, on the other end of the spectrum, Rajon Rondo has an excessively high basketball IQ. He's almost like the Professor X of NBA basketball. He has an exceedingly high cognitive function when it comes to basketball, but the physical is just not there. Just like Professor X, he's the strongest telepath in the world, but he's confined to a wheelchair. So how are these polar opposites going to mesh? Because Rondo comes from an environment with the Boston Celtics way back in the day, where all of the players on that team had extremely high basketball IQs as well. That's why they tended to clash. But at least they clashed functionally. I don't think that the clashes that will be occurring with the LA Lakers this season are going to be necessarily functional, because I don't think that the team is going to gel as well this year as they did 2 years ago. Please keep in mind that even though the Lakers were a very impressive team 2 years ago, all the players were pretty much at the very end of their prime. I think that this year we're going to see not necessarily a precipitous decline in the play of LeBron James, but it's going to be noticeable, even more noticeable than last year, that he's no longer the same player physically. He's going to try to make certain explosive moves, but he's not going to be able to. He's going to lean very hard on Russell Westbrick, especially in the third quarters of games that are close. And Russell's going to do what he normally does, that being make terrible mistakes in clutch moments. And it's going to cause tension in the team, especially between Rondo and Westbrick, who still have a simmering beef from what occurred in the bubble back in 2020. Remember that Russell Westbrick got into a back and forth with Rajon Rondo's brother. Many people forgot about that. They're going to bring that up in this segment. So anyway, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
During his introductory press conference, Rajon Rondo was asked about what new Laker teammates he's excited to play with. The veteran replied, quote, "Carmelo, obviously Russ. I just talked to Trevor Ariza. Trev beat me a couple years back in the 2010 finals, so we had a lot of great battles." Rondo had some battles with Russ in the bubble after Westbrook beefed with Rondo's brother sitting courtside during a playoff game, but Rondo added, quote, "I'm looking forward to putting everything in the past and putting it together for the greater good of the team and win a championship here."
What that sounds like is I still don't like that nigga, but we got to make it work, because this is the best opportunity for the both of us to not only win another championship, but just to further our NBA experience. I mean, at the end of the day, Russell Westbrick, he's nearing that point where, teams, if they do sign him, are going to expect him to be more of a mentor than the lead dog or the alpha on their squad. Like, Russell's nearing that point, and I'm not quite sure how he's going to be able to accept that, because how much is Russell really going to be able to teach other players when it comes to their mental approach out there on the basketball floor? I could see him as a mentor when it comes to physical conditioning and approach to the game, attacking, aggressiveness. But when it comes to reading defenses, what is Russell going to teach? He's going to look at a young player and say, wait a minute. That was your opportunity to get another assist and a rebound. Nigga, what are you looking at out there? Fuck the score. Get a triple-double.
I think Rondo and Russ will get along.
I think they'll be fine. I think Rondo summed it up best. Skip, guys move on. When you become teammates, you can battle with someone. And the prime example is that one of our biggest rivals, Dale Carter, played with Kansas City, started his career with Kansas City. And then we ended up signing him in free agency.
Dale Carter was a tremendous cornerback for the Kansas City Chiefs throughout the 1990s.
No problem with him. I knew DC. He's from Atlanta, so I knew him well, but we despised him.
You coached at Tennessee.
Yeah. We put all that aside. Hey, my homeboy, you my homeboy, but I'm trying to break your neck while I'm on the court, on the field. But once he came there, we said we put all that aside because he was there, brought there because Mike felt he could help us win, and we felt he could help us win. So let's put all this pettiness aside. That when you at Kansas City and we're over here, we going back and forth. Let's put that aside. And that's what you do for the betterment of the team. You're trying to win games. We're on the same team. We wear the same uniform now. What good is pettiness? What good is beef going to do now?
Right, that sounds nice, Shannon Sharp, but what happens, especially in crucial moments, when the team is expecting Russell Westbrick to execute the correct play at the right moment and to give the basketball to the right player at the right time, and his style of play is not conducive to that. His style of play is not winning basketball. It is stat-oriented basketball. See, LeBron James also plays stat-oriented basketball, but he intermixes it with a very high basketball IQ. Russell Westbrick is, he's almost like the Halle Berry of the NBA. From afar, everybody says, wow, she's drop dead gorgeous. How come she can't keep a man? And then you get to know her and you realize that, beauty is really... is really only skin deep, but it's much more than skin deep at the same time. Often we judge from afar. We only judge the exterior without truly examining the interior, and that's what matters in the long run. With Russell Westbrick, yes, he can run fast, he can jump high, he can dunk over people, he can make extraordinary plays. But does he understand the nuance of the game? Has he mastered the idiosyncrasies? The answers are no. And that's why he is not a championship level player. And many of the other great players in the NBA understand that. But unfortunately, Russ is a lot like Cam Newton as well. He's a player who, it's difficult for him to become a better player as far as his approach because the media is in love with him. The same with Cam Newton. So I foresee an end to Russell's career that may be similar to Cam's. That's assuming that this Laker experiment is not going to pan out like many people in the media may hope. I mean, if they win the championship, of course, the narrative on Russell Westbrick's career is altered, especially if he's one of the more prominent reasons why they won the championship. But if things turn out how I suspect, people are going to blame Russell. There's very little doubt about that. They're not going to blame LeBron. LeBron is going to strategically place himself in a position where he can't be blamed, and all of it is going to shift to Russell Westbrick. And then Russell is going to really get the LeBron James experience and understand what that really means to play alongside of a player, who the media views as a quote-unquote godlike or a messiah figure. And it's going to be a change. It's going to be a shift for Russ because Russ has been able to become comfortable in the stat padding, sentimental figure in the league. He played off that KD betrayed me for a very long time, that energy. But that's about worn out now. So it's time for him to either do or die. He pretty much has been given the position that the Lakers really wanted Dame Lillard to have. They really wanted Dame, but they had to settle for Russ.
Yes, and it's like, well, he didn't mention AD. Well, he hasn't played with AD before. Played with AD in New Orleans, played with him a year ago.
I'm good with that.
He played with Braun.
No problem.
He played with Braun for 2 years.
Yeah.
Obviously, Skip, Melo is held in high regard around the league.
I agree with that. And I think it's because, they respect Melo as a one-on-one scorer. I've always considered Carmelo Anthony to be very overrated, but I understand the appeal from a player's perspective. Players are always going to respect the guy who can get the basketball anywhere on the court and score on their man one-on-one.
Like Melo belong in the league. Melo belong in the league.
Agreed.
So I'm really not surprised, but like you said, yeah, you have beef with guys or a contention with have a contentious relationship. But if the guy joins me and can help me win a ball game, that's all I really care about. But Skip,
right, but at the end of the day, it's not really about Rondo saying if the guy joins me and can help me win a championship. Rondo understands that he's not the primary here. He's the supplementary piece. So it's up to him to build the bridge with Russ. It's not really up to Russ to build the bridge with him. Russ does grasp, though, that he's not the alpha on this team, at least perceptively. So he has to go... or perceivably, so he grasps that he has to go extend the hand to Rondo as well.
Not a big man. Russ looked like a giant compared to Rondo. I'm looking at him in this picture, I'm like, well, damn. How much does Rondo look smaller than Allen Iverson?
Well, 6'3" to 6 feet. It's 3 inches.
Well, Rondo probably weighed like $165.
Probably. What's Russ? 190?
Yeah.
195?
That's what I'm like. Damn, Russ.
Okay. All right.
Russ like
I got it.
No, Russ is legit 6'3", 6'3" and a half. Like he's, his stature is legitimate. And that's why I always state, it's funny how so many people have tried to cast Stephen Curry as a little man. But nobody says that about Russell Westbrick. And they're about the same size. They're about the same height. Maybe it's because Russell is so much more explosive as an athlete that it makes him appear to be, larger than he actually is. But, Rondo's about 6'1", Russell's about 6'3". So, and who knows what type of shoes they're wearing in this photo, things like that.
Because you got a problem. And I'm not sure you can get this one fixed.
What's the problem?
Well, we've heard from one of these parties, but we didn't hear from the offended party yet, because the offended party in the bubble was the guy on the left, Russell Westbrook, right?
Yeah.
So, are we sure that Russ will be able to move on from this incident? Because
Russ is not going to have a choice, but I understand where Skip is going with this. Many times when two people, quote unquote, let bygones be bygones, it's only until they reach a moment of critical mass. And then we find out exactly what the stability is, the level of stability two people have when it comes to their connection and what it's based in. If it's based in pretense, it'll tear apart under any adversity. So, we're going to find out over the course of the season exactly, how tenuous the relationship is between Rondo and Russell Westbrick. And it's going to be very important because you can't just put the basketball in LeBron James's hands for 82 games over the course of a regular season anymore. As it is, they're going to sit LeBron for at least 15 games this regular season, whether he's hurt or not. So Westbrook, a.k.a. Westbrick, is going to have to be able to carry the team in LeBron's absences.
In the bubble, remember, nobody's in the stands, so only friends and family, a few, are allowed to sit courtside.
Right.
So you can just hear everything echo through the whole gymnasium, right? Okay.
See, this right here is why Westbrick is not a winning player. That's not supposed to affect him to that degree. It's Game 5 of the playoffs. You guys are about to get closed out. I can't remember what the score was. Maybe they were getting blown out and Westbrick said, fuck it. But still, even then, why worry about that during the game and make it that big of a deal unless you're so frustrated, especially at the prospect of losing yet again, that you're looking for someone to take it out on.
Game 5 of the second round, the win over the Houston Rockets by the Lakers, obviously. And Rondo is getting into it with Russ, and all of a sudden, Rondo's brother William joins in from a courtside seat and yells at Russ, "You are trash."
Right.
It's like, excuse me?
Yeah.
Are you talking to me? Said Russell Westbrook. And
did you see my stat sheet? Okay, we down 25, but did you see my stat sheet? How can I be trash?
the brother does the Dame bye-bye, waves bye-bye to him, and that's when Russ said, no, you're going bye-bye, and he went and got the security and said, I want him out.
Right.
And then after the game, Russ says Rondo was talking SH, and then his brother decided he wanted to hop in too, said Russell Westbrook after this game. And he concluded, he started talking crazy, and I don't play that.
Yeah.
Okay? So he did say that Rondo was talking you-know-what to start it off, because that's what Rondo does.
We're a part of the team, and guess what? If I'm in the stands and my brother talking, guess what? I'm joining in.
That's understandable, but, you know, those were different conditions in the bubble. Pretty much all the people in the crowd were family. It's not like you're sitting there amongst 18,000 other people. So it probably would have behooved Rondo's brother to show a bit more decorum and just watch the game, especially in light of the fact that the Lakers were going to win. You know, sometimes you have to let sleeping dogs lie.
Me repeatedly by the Hall of Famer across from me.
What?
When a family member speaks for a star, speaks publicly for a star, what do you have to assume? That it came from said star, right? So said star is Rondo.
Right.
Does Rondo privately tell his brother he's trash?
Well, let me say this. I'm pretty sure that not only does Rajon Rondo believe that Russell Westbrick is overrated as a basketball player, not as a basketball talent or basketball athlete, but as a basketball player. Not only does Rajon believe that, but many other great players in the league believe that Russell Westbrick is overrated as a basketball player. I mean, I still remember that scene when Golden State played OKC. This is one of the first times that KD played against OKC after he left the Thunder to join the Warriors. And if I remember correctly, the Warriors are blowing the Thunder out. KD's sitting on the sideline with Stephen Curry, and they're both laughing because they're watching Russell Westbrick with his team down by like 30, running around the court trying to chase a triple-double. So I think that he's the guy who, you know, he's kind of known across the league as a stat chaser who can't win and whose habits are not conducive to winning. So I don't believe that his peers respect him as a basketball player as much as the media does.
What? I'll put that aside. I ain't gonna be trash for the time being. You ain't trash right now. We together. Skip, you put all that aside. All that pettiness, all that stuff. We about to win the championship.
Oh, okay.
We about to win this championship.
Well, that's the point. You put it aside for now. You can put it aside for now until the affliction hit, until adversity hit, and things stop going your way. Then what? Then the real them comes out. It's like a relationship. Everything's hunky-dory while the money's coming in. The living situation is good. The car note is paid. But wait until those things stop happening. All of a sudden, there's more nitpicking, more arguments, more fights. And you realize why that person is really with you as opposed to, why they're not with you.
Then what you gonna say?
Okay. Who are the two hardest-headed point guards in the league to me? I think they're 1, 2, 2, 1, however you want to rank them.
But there's no
It's
competition.
those two.
Skip, there's no competition.
Okay.
Russ is a starter.
Who are the two?
Well, he's a starter at point guard, but I do believe that there will be some situations where Rondo and Russell are out there on the floor together. And that might be where a lot of the contention comes, because Russell, once he gets the basketball, he's going to consider himself an all-in-one type player. And if he does not make the right decisions, that's going to cause tension between himself and LeBron and himself and Rondo. Because Rondo and LeBron, they both consider each other to be, the top two brains in basketball. So normally they're simpatico when it comes to their outlook on the game. I do think Russell Westbrook is going to become, the whipping boy for the both of them over the course of this season, especially if the Lakers don't play as well as they hope.
Triggered tempers in the league, those two, right? They both have quick triggers. They can just flash and go, right?
Yeah.
Both of them.
Right.
They play with high emotion and it just snaps. And you got to be careful, especially with Rondo. But Russ has it in him too, where he'll just go crazy. Rondo's ready to fight. Russ is just ready to go off.
Skip, we're on the same team. We're on the same team.
You play the same position.
Skip, one guy makes $44 million. The other guy makes 2.5.
Okay.
That's very true, but Rondo is not your average $2.5 million player. In the locker room, he has the prestige and, the authority level of a player making $40 million in regards to the other player's willingness to listen to what he has to say. We saw what happened last season in the playoffs when he tried to chastise Kawhi. Like, he's not scared to confront superstar players on other teams. And Russell's not even a superstar. Like, Rondo's the type of guy who'll confront LeBron. He'll confront LeBron. He'll confront Paul Pierce, KG back in the day, Ray Allen. He'll confront, as I just stated, Kawhi Leonard. So, you know, he's that guy. He'll do that. So that has to be considered. You just can't say, well, Russell's making 40-some-odd million and Rondo's making 2.5 million. That's not going to matter in the locker room.
Traded for, the other guy got bought out and got signed as a free agent.
What does the backup have that the starting and star does not have? He has the highest basketball IQ, second only to LeBron, to me.
I would agree with that.
Russ was not gifted with that kind of a basketball mind.
Not only was Russ not gifted with a basketball mind, he actually was cursed with basketball stupidity. Like, Russell Westbrick is legitimately one of the dumbest basketball players, one of the dumbest, super talented basketball players, let me specify, that I've ever seen.
He plays with supreme talent. He's physical. He can still leap, as we saw in the ridiculous dunk.
Yeah, you saw him
dunking on those little high school kids. but we get it. He is a supreme athlete, still at the backside of his prime.
Right.
We get all that. But if I could pour Rondo into Russ, I might have Jordan, man.
I get it. Although
well, you'd have to pour Rondo into Russ and then give Russell a jump shot and make him grow another 3 inches. Then you might have Jordan. You might have Jordan.
Savant that Rondo is, you don't stay in this league as long and you don't lead the league in assists without seeing things before they happen. So I do think Rondo has a very high basketball IQ. Although it might not be Rondo's, that's okay. Yes, he survived. He's more athletic. He might be the most athletic point guard that we've ever seen.
He might be.
Now, I would have loved to see Derrick Rose get about 10 years before he started having these injuries, because I believe he was Russell Westbrook before Russell Westbrook was Russell Westbrook.
Well, actually, in my view, Derrick Rose was a level above anything we've ever seen from Russell when Derrick was at his peak. The best we ever saw from Russell was that 2017 season when he won the MVP and averaged a 30-point triple-double. Certain people might say, well, how could you say that Derrick Rose was ever at the level of what Westbrick did that season? I thought that Derrick Rose understood how to play winning basketball better than Westbrick. But then, you know, you can also come back and say that the reason why the Bulls won all those games that year is because of their coach Thibodeau and how he forced them to play defense. So that may have been it as well, but they're definitely right there with each other. I've always thought that Derrick Rose was better in the clutch. He was a better decision maker than Russell Westbrick. And I'd probably also give him the slight edge in athleticism, prime for prime, over Westbrick. Derrick Rose is one of the top 3 to 5 pure athletes to ever play in the NBA. Like, he's up there with the Wilt Chamberlains, with the Michael Jordans, pound for pound, inch for inch, explosive metric for explosive metric.
Skip, for me, I put all that aside. No matter what I thought of you as another team, if we become teammates, our goal should be the same. It's to win and to win a championship. So I put all that aside.
I ask you, how many nights will Rondo, playing 13 or 14 minutes a game, be sitting over on that Laker bench, watch Russ turn it over, kick it out of bounds, and drop his head and think,
Right, but even more than that, how many nights will Rondo be out there on the floor with Russell with 5 minutes left? Give Russell the basketball and watch Russell make a terrible decision and yell at him on the court. That's really what we have to watch out for, because he'll do that.
Russ is not going to all of a sudden go from a 4 turnover guy to a 0.5 turnover guy. That's not what he does. That's not who he is, and that's okay.
yes.
It's easy for you to say that that's okay because you're sitting in a studio. For those guys out there on the basketball floor who understand the difference between winning a championship and not even getting out of the first round, is having a guy like a Russell Westbrick who's, you know, a high usage rate guy and also a high turnover guy. So those two things are going to have to be smoothed out and thoroughly compromised in order for them to have the best chance to win a championship. So no, that's not okay.
Russ is not going to all of a sudden go from a 4 turnover guy to a 0.5 turnover guy. That's not what he does. That's not who he is, and that's okay.
It's easy for you to say that that's okay because you're sitting in a studio. For those guys out there on the basketball floor who understand the difference between winning a championship and not even getting out of the first round, is having a guy like a Russell Westbrick who's, you know, a high usage rate guy and also a high turnover guy. So those two things are going to have to be smoothed out and thoroughly compromised in order for them to have the best chance to win a championship. So no, that's not okay.
4 times, finished second.
And he
4
led the league in
times.
assists, too.
Okay.
Talk about that.
He did. Well, I've talked about that because the only way he does it is he attacks the basket, and he figured out 5 years ago, if 2 guys come and meet me at the rim, I just drop the ball behind me and let Steven Adams dunk
Well, he ain't going to have to do all that.
Yeah.
Guess what? Because he got other guys that can make shots. He got Gold James. He got AD. So now you got 2 other guys, whereas before you had nothing.
LeBron.
Right, but will Russell be able to make wide open jump shots when he gets great looks from Rondo and LeBron James? That's the real question. Because he's going to have to be able to make those shots. They're going to need him to make wide open shots. That's why I stated their first choice, of course, was Dame Lillard, but of course, Portland will not bite. It just goes to show you how much Russell's value has depreciated over the last couple of years, that you can receive him in a trade so easily. At one point, he would have been viewed as a guy who was relatively untouchable. It probably would have taken 3 first-round draft picks, 2 more second-round draft picks, and maybe a relatively decent player on your starting 5 to get a Russell Westbrick. Now you can pretty much get him for not that much, as long as your cap space is going to be equivalent or relatively equaled out.
On the wing saying, "Can I play?" Yeah, look, when he had James Harden had averaged 35. He had Paul George averaged 28. KD won 4 scoring titles with it. So all of a sudden, he bad for business.
Well, KD decided he is bad for business. Can't win with him.
KD left. That was well within his right. I love it. It's business. Like people tell me when players get cut, it's business. Well, this was Kevin Durant made a business decision. I got no problem with that. But guess what?
Guess what?
When I cannot wait for the season. How much longer we got to wait for the season to start?
Almost another 2 months, Shannon Sharp. Don't worry about it. It's coming. Almost another 2 months. Don't worry about it, Shannon Sharp. It's coming.
Westbrook.
No, collision court, Sharp and Bayless, when the Lakers are beating the brakes off team. And then you come out here, you got to come out
I'll
here.
I'll be right here. I'll be sitting right in my
You got to come out here and it's not going to last. LeBron is playing high minutes.
I cannot wait to talk about the internal dissension that the Lakers are suffering.
You know what, Skip? See, you try to manifest things. That's what you want to happen.
I'm speaking it into existence.
That's part of it. Skip is trying to manifest it. He is trying to speak it into existence, but I can see it also. I can see it right there on the horizon. I just don't see how that can't be the case. Russell needs to be the quote-unquote alpha wherever he goes. Pretty much the only team that he's been on in his entire career where he was not the unquestioned alpha was the Houston Rockets. And that was only because, he was playing there with his NBA best friend, James Harden, and even they could not last more than 1 season. He goes to the Wizards and plays with a Bradley Beal, a player who, even though he puts up big statistical outputs, he's accustomed to being the second banana. He was the second banana with the Eastern Conference version of Russell Westbrick, that being John Wall, for many years. And we all know that when Russell was in OKC, he was considered the alpha in the locker room, even when KD was there, when Paul George was there. So this is going to be a different situation for Russ. He's going to be in the locker room with a player, or really 2 players, who have that quote-unquote alpha personality, meaning they're going to expect everyone to listen to them. Will Russell be able to do that? We'll find out.
What happened? But see, I don't do that. I don't wish no ill. I want the Lakers to be healthy, and I want the Nets to be healthy because I don't want any excuses.
Yeah, meet me at the rim. I just drop the ball behind me and let Steven Adams dunk.
Well, he ain't going to have to do all that. Guess what? Because he got other guys that can make shots. He got Gold James. He got AD. So now you got 2 other guys, whereas before you had nothing.
LeBron, too many nights he's going to be standing over on the wing saying, "Can I play?"
Yeah, look, when he had James.
That'd be funny as hell if that actually happened. I can see LeBron with that stupid-ass look on his face when Russell's throwing the ball into the first row. Can I get the basketball, nigga?
Averaged 35. He had Paul George averaged 28. KD won 4 scoring titles with it. So all of a sudden, he bad for business.
Well, KD decided he is bad for business. Can't win with him.
KD left. That was well within his right. I love it. It's business. Like people tell me when players get cut, it's business. Well, this was Kevin Durant made a business decision. I got no problem with that. But guess what?
Guess what?
When I cannot wait for the season. How much longer we got to wait for the season to start?
collision course, Rondo, Westbrook.
No, collision course, Sharp and Bayless, when the Lakers are beating the brakes off team. And then you come out here, you got to come out
I'll
here.
be right here. I'll be sitting right in my
You got to
chair.
come out here and like, it's not going to last. LeBron and Flair, high minutes.
I cannot wait to talk about the internal dissension that the Lakers are suffering.
You know what, Skip? See, you try to manifest things. That's what you want to happen.
I'm speaking it into existence.
No, that's exactly what you want to happen. But see, I don't do that. I don't wish no ill. I want the Lakers to be healthy, and I want the Nets to be healthy.
Stop lying. You hoping and praying that KD goes down. When KD tore his Achilles in that finals round championship against the Toronto Raptors, almost every player put out best wishes in their social media except for LeBron James. At least I didn't see it. If I'm wrong about that, one of you brothers can correct me. But I don't remember LeBron James putting out any message in his social media when KD went down, because he knew that injury was confirmation that 2020 was going to be his year to win a championship. And that's why I give LeBron credit. That was his year to win it, and he won it. I thought that 3 straight years, players who were in that must-win season to win a championship, they were able to accomplish it. In 2019, it was Kawhi, because KD went down, so he had to win a chip. In 2020, it was LeBron. That was the year that, a lot of other superstars were down, and the only other real superstar in the league was on a team that didn't know how to win and had, slightly above average players trying to act as if they should call the shots when it came to the culture. Also had bad leadership from the coaching position in Doc Rivers. Of course, I'm talking about Kawhi and the Clippers. So, that was really the only obstacle the Lakers were going to have, and, they pretty much talked themselves into jumping off of the cliff. The Clippers did. So the Lakers had to win it in 2020. And then, of course, in 2021, you have Giannis, who won it in a season where he had to win it when the Nets' other 2 star players or borderline superstar, bubble superstar players went down. And, he got it accomplished. So I give these guys credit. They won it when they were supposed to win it.
Because you make a lot of excuses. If James Harden, he was horrible, he was a shell of himself, and Kyrie wasn't there. You made all these excuses.
I just hope the Lakers get to a healthy Nets in the final, because you would get embarrassed.
Well, I would like to see the Lakers get to the finals and play a fully healthy Nets team just to see that happen. But I really want to see a fully healthy Nets team against a fully healthy Clippers team. To me, that would be the best for basketball.
Like we got to go.
By the best player on the planet,
go.
James Harden, the best point guard in basketball.
Y'all want to trade for Giannis?
Huh?
Y'all about to trade for Giannis?
Kyrie with the Uncle Drew handles.
Oh, y'all about to trade for Giannis, huh?
We don't need Giannis.
You talking the best player on the planet? That's the best player on the planet right
We
now.
got KD. That's all we need.
We got Go James.
Yeah. Well, he used to be for a while.
He still is.
At least in the conversation.
Oh, but AD gonna bounce back in a big way.
Really?
Is he? Is he going to stay healthy? That nigga's like Mr. Glass. Like Samuel L. Jackson in Unbreakable.
And,
Enjoying his time off. But did you see him?
You know
did
what?
you see him exercising on the yacht? You see him getting
I
that bad
did
one?
not
Okay,
see it.
Yeah, Skip, did you see that? I said, go ahead, baby. Make sure that you use the plyometrics like I taught you. You got to stay limber and loose and explosive. Even though y'all did illy without me, tell Savannah and the kids I love them.
Yeah, he putting that work in.
I see him do this.
Exercising
Yeah, we hear that
on a
winery.
yacht. Did you just hear yourself say that? Exercising on a yacht?
Yeah.
Like, must be.
Yeah, LeBron is becoming a big wino as his career winds down. But, hey, it is what it is. I guess he has to numb the pain. But anyway, we'll see what happens this season between Rondo and Westbrick. I do predict that there are going to be some moments of contention, but we'll see if they can work their way through it. If the Lakers can win a championship, it's totally going to change the narrative on Russell Westbrook's career. So peace.